City of Blue Ash City Council, September 8th, 2022 to order. Can we all please rise together and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've been watching too much FC Cincinnati and Bengals football, apparently. Jamie, will you call the roll?
Councilman Jeff Capel.
Here.
Councilwoman Jill Cole. Here. Councilman Lee Zerwanka.
Here.
Councilman Brian Gath.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pramod Javeri.
Here.
Councilwoman Katie Schneider.
Here.
Mayor Mark Cirkin.
Here.
7 present.
I'd accept the motion to accept tonight's agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to move to the beautification awards and turn this over to Councilman Zerwanka.
Thank you, Mayor. The Beautification Award judging process took place in June, with the city receiving 32 residential property nominations. All properties nominated for an award were judged by the committee. Examples of the judging criteria included general maintenance, garden variety, use of color, and overall appearance. And our winners have been invited tonight. I don't know if everybody's here, but I'll let you go ahead and I'll head on down there and give out the awards. Yeah, we'll start with the committee's choice awards. The first one is from 10243 Kenwood Road, the Bork residence. Our second committee's choice award is from 9508 Lansford Drive, the Rodenball family. Our next committee's choice award is from 4418 Edenton Lane, the Hughes family.
Yay!
Last but not least is our Mayor's Choice Award, and the mayor chose 5133 Muirwoods Court, the Kaufman family.
We ran into each other in Kroger's and they were so excited. They were so excited for it. The bow is very dainty.
Let's give a round of applause for all our winners this year.
That's a very controversial award because, you know, there's 10 or 12 judges and the day they decide to drive by your property, maybe the day you just did your mulch, just cut your grass, or it may be a week later and the place looks kind of tough. And it's like, you may not get the award that you think you deserve because that day just happened to have the judges there at the wrong moment. So anyway, thank you for caring so much and being so excited about it too. That's a blast. We're going to move on. Do I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 11th, 2022?
So move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any communications from council? No?
We have 3 liquor license requests. One is a transfer of ownership, a change of ownership interest, the Blue Ash Marathon on Glendale Milford. One is a change of ownership at 11255 Reed Hartman Highway from Ando Japanese Restaurant to Kanpai, I don't know,
Kanpai.
Steakhouse. And the third one is a transfer from out of the area from the Coleraine Bowl to Max Pizza Pub, 9500 Kenwood Road. The police department has reviewed all 3 of these and has no objections.
And Max Pizza Pub is in the old
I believe it's in the old Mio's.
Mio's location.
That's the right address, 9500.
The mayor's report for August of 2022 will be entered into the public record. Do I have a motion to accept the financial report from August of 2022?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to move to hearings from citizens. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone and state your name and address. If you have any materials to pass out, please give them directly to Jamie, the clerk of council. Please keep your comments as brief as possible to allow others to be heard. Hearings from citizens is for us to listen to you and your neighbors. It is very unlikely we'll make any remarks immediately after you speak. We need to have a chance to reflect on your comments, research the subject, consider city codes, and sometimes even legal issues. Sometimes later in the meeting during miscellaneous business, we do revisit an issue that's brought forward. The clerk of council will notify you when 3 minutes have passed, and at that point, please wrap up your presentation. Most importantly, let's all treat each other calmly and with respect.
Hi, I'm Julie Brook, 9566 Cooper Lane, and I'm a pedestrian a lot. I run the streets of Blue Ash quite often, and I run from my house on Cooper Lane up Cooper Road, and then I cut through on Brown and into the park and then circle the park. And it's consistent that the cars coming from Lansford onto Brown never even pause. There is a stop sign on West to Brown. There's a stop sign on Ridgeway to Brown, and there's a stop sign on Brown that turns into Lansford. But there's no stop sign on Lansford to Brown. And there has been multiple times where it's been pretty close that a car has not even looked right before it zipped around. And I was hoping that either there could be a police presence for a while to slow them down, or the opportunity to maybe look into getting a stop sign there. Because if all the other corners have stop signs, I don't know why that one doesn't. And someone's going to get hurt. And I've missed a number of times cars. Particularly if I try now to lean to the right, but if I'm on the left. So that's all I have to say. So I'm hoping that you'll look into it and look on that Ravenswood, Lansford onto Brown.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Rob Ryan, 9514 Conklin Avenue. Oh, thanks, by the way, for putting up the pickleball courts. Should try it. I'm talking about the brownfield, the remediation program. And this has been around the block a little bit, starting back from January. And I saw some of the videos and discussions and some hem and hawing. And I looked at the brownfield remediation program guidelines by the Ohio State, the big, long document. And it seems that there is a matching requirement fund of a certain percentage, 25%. And you guys have deemed that you're going to give away $1.525 million, I think is the number. And looking at this matching grants or matching funds, that is a requirement from a number of different agencies, profits, nonprofits, states, governments, et cetera, et cetera. But there's no requirement in that document that it is a gift. And everything I've seen in the language, it's a gift.
And I think you need to discuss and explain why the city is giving away $1.52 million and expecting nothing in return, even if they fail. You know, it's like, let's see, I did a little remediation on my own. You know, it cost me thousands of dollars to do this. Okay, I could have said, hey, you know, this is gonna cost me $40,000 to do this. Can you guys give me 10? Okay. You should have some sort of tieback, some sort of, hey, if you don't complete the project, you owe us. If you're gonna get this into a business arrangement, we want to have X number of employees, so you pay city taxes. The way it stands right now, it's zero. It's a gift. And I think you need to explain yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Good evening. My name is Linda Collett. I live at 9530 Benchmark Lane, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you my concern tonight. The primary concern is the deteriorating condition of the Blue Ash tennis courts. We all know, I think, that our tennis courts have been neglected for quite a few years. Councilman PJ Havari and our late friend and mayor, Tom Adamek, used to play regularly at Blue Ash. And we know that we're assured next year, this will be in next year's budget, and it keeps going down the road. Perhaps you may remember when the ATP players came and practiced at our Blue Ash courts. Certainly they would not have any part of the courts with the cracks and everything else and the neglect that has transferred there. Currently, the city of Blue Ash is represented by 4 ladies doubles teams that play in the Northeast Tennis League in the summer. And we take 6 courts for matches and practices. And we have a men's program and a youth program. Now with the additional interest of pickleball, there's even more use and demand for those courts. This summer, one of the parts of the fence collapsed onto the courts due to the lack of structure now because everything has sunk into the ground. And this was not caused by a tree falling on it. It just fell in, and it was that way for several weeks before it was finally fixed. Perhaps a trip down to the Evendale situation. They have beautiful tennis courts down there, and it could be a great inspiration for the vision that we would like to have and the standard that we expect and appreciate in the city of Blue Ash. A friend and I met with Mayor Mark Serkin. We appreciated his time with that. And he said that there was a potential consideration that the tennis courts and a redo of the swimming pool and so forth may all happen at one time. For an economic reason, it would be cheaper to deal with all of this at one time, which certainly makes sense. But while a joint venture would work nicely, we would have no hope of the pool and the tennis courts being ready for next season once again, because if they're not starting tomorrow, it's not going to happen. And we would not want to be without either a pool or our courts for a summer. We've lived in Blue Ash for over 40 years, and we're thankful for all that we have. It seems though, as though our focus sometimes does not give enough consideration to the residents of Blue Ash, but more to the bigger picture, the things that apply to people who come to visit our community rather than the people who live here. Some of the projects, we approved the tax increase and are paying that to fund recreational improvements. Yet again, the projects don't seem to be driven home to a leaking swimming pool, really poor condition tennis courts and things like that. So the old, if it's not broken, don't fix it, seems to be ignored, and we're going to spend money on certain other projects in the city, but the tennis courts and the pool are broken and need to be fixed and need to be done post haste. You know, we love being residents of the city of Blue Ash. There's great city services and we appreciate that. But our high interest is to really improve the recreational facilities for the folks who live and who work in this community. And so my last question might be, what is the process to move these concerns forward? So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Linda.
My name is Ellen Lane. I live at 9625 Waxwing Drive. I've lived here in Blue Ash for 20 plus years, and I love so much of what Blue Ash has. But I've also wondered for 20 plus years why there are a certain number of streets that are rather unimproved. No storm drainage. You know, the street just flows into the yard. People are putting lovely homes on those streets. But I think the city is missing the point. We need to address some of those infrastructure issues as mundane as they are. So I would say this. I love the amphitheater, and I think it works just fine. Rather than refurbishing something that really is quite adequate, quite nice, how about addressing some of these super mundane issues like, for example, Miller Road, Northfield, Conklin, in the center of Old Blue Ash that still need curbs? I appreciate your listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Sayuda, 5761 Donjoy Drive. Like the two ladies previous before me, I love Blue Ash. I lived here over 35 years, and you guys do a great job. I certainly appreciate it, all the services and everything. I have two questions. The first one is regard to Kenwood Road. I appreciate that we've put a 25-mile-an-hour flashing sign down there. But in reality, people come through there at 50 miles an hour up that hill or down the hill. You cannot see them at all. So I was wondering if there's anything that we can do additionally to slow the traffic down coming out of the township and into Blue Ash. I certainly hope there is. We need a viable downtown. I guarantee you, you won't go through Madera, downtown Madera at 40 miles an hour. That will not happen. And so we need to make sure that we don't have that either. I'm really concerned about that. It's just way too fast. There's only one speed limit sign on before downtown and one speed limit sign on the end of the shopping center on the far end of town for 25 miles an hour. So I think more signage would help there. My other concern is, like the lady said, with the tennis courts, next year, hopefully next year, we're going to have a new town square, and the concerts down there are wildly popular. If you attended the last one, they had to be over 3,000 people there. I mean, it was amazing. People were putting their chairs out at 6 o'clock in the morning. I've been here 35 years. I've never seen them put it out at 6. So it's wildly popular. And I'd ask you to appropriate the funds to extend that 2 weeks or 4 weeks. I know we don't want to try to get in with Sycamore football, but I think that's achievable. I think, for 2 weeks in August, the last 2 Fridays, we did not have any concerts downtown. And so at least go that far. I'll tell you, I do not attend the Tuesday concerts. I don't know what they are, but well, speaking for what I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? You moving, Peter?
My name is Peter Nord, and I live in Kenridge Lake. And unlike some of the other speakers, I've only lived here 22 years. However, I was employed in Blue Ash when I was a little kid, before the city became a city, sometime in the early 50s. So I've been here a long time. My first council meeting I visited was in 1980. And I recall back in the late 70s when we had a period of inflation and the prime interest rate went to 24%. And if you think mortgage rates are high now, they're nothing compared to what they could be if it really becomes necessary to jack up the interest rates to curb the inflation that we're seeing. And one of the results of inflationary pressures is increase in costs of materials. And we've seen that at the grocery store. I've paid for the corn roast in the Ken Ridge neighborhood for a number of years. It used to be $30 for 8 dozen ears of corn, and now it's 50. So we all know that there are great inflationary pressures. And having been in the manufacturing business for most of my life, I can tell you that the inflationary pressures on the cost of material causes a decrease in the quality of those materials when suppliers are forced to cut as many corners as possible. So I look at the new construction at Kenwood and Cooper that's going to occur, and I wonder about the budgeting that was done before we had these inflationary increases. And I think it behooves the city, since you own 2 acres over there, to hire a professional construction manager firm to oversee the materials and construction techniques that are used, so that in 5 or 10 years, we don't find the parking lots crumbling, the roofs leaking, and other problems that will occur when corners are cut because of inflationary costs. So that's my prediction for the future. And it's really important that you should do that. Find some professional construction managers who will look at the criteria for the equipment and concrete and bricks and drywall and other materials that are being used in that construction to make sure that we get what we really want and not something that will have to be repaired because it decays in 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing nobody, we're going to move on to committee reports. Finance and Administration, Councilman Zerwanka, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mayor. Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-46 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into contracts for employee benefit coverages and authorizing the city manager to execute related documentation and contracts.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-46.
Second.
Any discussion?
There's a copy of this on my desk that wasn't in the packet. Has there been a change since what was submitted to us?
It's the new version. The old version was in our packet, and then this is the
It
new
says
one.
the change should be in section 2.
The changes requested by me, Mr. Gath, just to simply confirm that the city manager can execute all documents necessary. It may be beyond just agreements. So
Very
that's
good.
all it was, just to give, so we wouldn't have to come back to you in case another document appeared.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. Thank you.
Anyone else?
No, I mean, considering inflation, these increases are very minor. I'm always surprised at in bulk how you guys can do so well, and my little company has a much tougher time. So
Seeing any other discussion? Nope.
no, I was just saying it's
Oh.
her. She's tough.
Yes, she is. Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Mayor Serkin,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-47 by title only.
A resolution to levy special assessments on real property for the total cost of mitigating noxious weeds and high grass pursuant to Chapter 911 of the Blue Ash Code of Ordinances and ORC 715.261.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-47.
Second.
Any discussion?
I guess it's fitting that this is chapter 911 of the code.
This is where we recoup our money for miscellaneous properties that just don't take care of them. So, yeah. Any other comments? Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Mayor Serkin,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-48 by title only.
Providing for amendments within the 2022 annual appropriation resolution number 2021-64.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-48.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm going to save all my comments on the issue of the Procter and Gamble East project and the $1.5 million to the developer for two pieces of legislation from now when we discuss that in depth. But for now, I'm simply going to vote against anything that involves sending money over there so long as the $1.5 million is a gift instead of a loan with a firm payback.
Anyone else? Jamie, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
No.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole. Yes. Mayor Serkin.
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 no.
You. Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-49 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a delinquent debt collection agreement with the Ohio Attorney General.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-49.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka.
Yes.
I couldn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Mayor Serkin,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-50 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a grant agreement with Reed Hartman Grooms Development LLC for the remediation and demolition of vacant buildings at 11500 Reed Hartman Highway and construction of related on-site infrastructure.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-50.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I have one questions. I just want to up to Kelly, see, we talked about this on the third center where and 25% of a local matching fund for the project, $1.5 million, which may be reimbursed. What is which may be?
Well, rather than get into that, I guess I'll just restate when council voted on this, why it was done, because I think there's a little narrative earlier that it's just a gift given away for fun. It was, the P&G site is a site that you and the community have been trying to redevelop for a number of years. It's loaded with asbestos in there. The money has already been awarded by the state. And it was in order to leverage that. Otherwise, we weren't going to have that opportunity and miss out on that $4.5 million grant. What we got in return, and it is going on now, is the removal of that asbestos site, preparing it for redevelopment for the community's benefit. Ultimately, we don't know when that'll happen, but if it doesn't happen, it'll be a stain in our community, much like, you know, you had the Norwood Camara plant for 30 years or 40 years. You had the hotel down in Sycamore for 30 or 40 years. So we can go that path and not do anything, but council voted on that because they wanted to, you know, accelerate that change. But more importantly is the match, the developer is actually using it to pay for a portion of the road improvements. So when we're done, we actually will have a road out of it that connects from Grooms to Reed Hartman Highway. And the portion of the road that the $1.5 million match is going to will be the portion that serves the Sycamore School bus depot that is currently being built. So there's a lot of win-win in this. And so the Sycamore School Bus Depot now will have a road serving out on there, serve the new bus depot. The removal of asbestos site, you're preparing a 40-acre site for future redevelopment. You're removing asbestos, so that was the reason behind it. So I don't know if that directly answered your question, but that was, a very intricate thing, and I think you made the right decision on that, so.
Well, according to what you're saying is that we are getting return in a different way. But when you wrote it down, maybe that made me question this, whatever.
As for
So
future TIF revenue, yes. What happens is once the site has been demolished and a new company were to come in, a TIF agreement has already been set up for that district, part of which we're already receiving funds today from Ensemble Health Company across the street, that area TIF. Any new development that goes in there, we will receive the benefit of those additional TIF in addition to earnings tax dollars on it. So there's a potential for more revenue down the road directly that would pay it. But even if we don't, we remove that asbestos and we actually get a road that's going to serve the Sycamore Bus Depot.
Okay.
Thank you for explaining that way better than I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that at the last meeting, and I think it's a great investment. And I imagine most of us in the audience would feel like getting that site and all the asbestos cleaned up is a win. And the fact that we will eventually get that money back, almost 100%, sure, can't say 100%, but close. It's a good thing. So thank you all for supporting that.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a few comments. I'm not going to fully recap what I had said at a prior meeting. I'll just quickly go through that and get to the new stuff in the interest of time. Now, 4 years ago, a developer purchased this property knowing full well that there would be many millions of dollars worth of asbestos removal required. In January, council was asked to endorse the developer winning a $4.6 million grant from the state of Ohio. Nothing in that legislation and nothing that we promised stated that we, as the Blue Ash government, would be the ones providing the $1.5 million match to the developer. Now, fast forward 5 months to the June council meeting, we received a memo shortly before that meeting, which stated that the state would grant the $4.6 million to the developer, provided that the local match would come. And then the developer claims that they could not afford the 25% match. Now, I can't say that there's much believability to me that somebody purchases a property knowing that there's $6+ million of remediation work that has to be done, and then wants to tell me that they can't afford 1/4 of those costs that they knew were coming. And especially when that 1/4 cost brings back a check for 75% of it. I'm well aware if I write a $1.5 million check and I get $4.6 million back, that's pretty affordable. I come out well ahead in that. Now, there's also been mentioned both in the memo to council as well as in the legislation about reimbursements. If you read the legislation itself, there is no reimbursement requirement. It simply states after it talks about the $1.525 million that we're giving over, it states, which may be reimbursed to the city through future TIF revenues. That is not a legally binding contract. That's not a legally binding anything. That's like if I loan my cousin money and then my cousin says, I may pay you back several years down the road through the profits of a business that I haven't even started yet. That's an aspiration. That's not a reimbursement contract. And the portion of that legislation states that that future reimbursements would be through a TIF. Well, let's keep in mind what TIFs are typically for. TIFs are where you take the increased property value of a development and you keep it in the area to fund the improvements that the development requires. So for example, you have a big development and a whole lot of road work is needed to support that big development. So what you do is you set up a TIF around that area to keep those excess property tax dollars in the area to fund those road improvements so that the general fund does not have to subsidize that. Now, if we take TIF dollars to reimburse a loan to a developer, then that means those TIF dollars are not available to do the kind of improvements that TIFs typically require. And then where would those improvements have to come from? The general fund. Now, when we debated this at the June council meeting, which this passed, by the way, by a very narrow majority, just by a 1-vote majority, some of the council members who voted for it stated that they wished they had had more time to work on it because this was kind of thrown to us at the last minute. Well, congratulations, your wishes have been granted. Since this legislation is apparently needed to complete what was done in June, we now do have the time to get this done correctly. This $1.5 million should be a loan. It should be paid back by the developer to us. It should not be a gift to them. All of the money going into this project is helping to increase the value of the property that is privately owned by this private developer. So this is very easily fixable. And so what I've done is typed up an amendment which would address that. And get that around. So I'll read the section that I'm adding to the legislation. There's already a section 1, 2, and 3 in here. I've added a section 4, which states, a legally binding repayment plan to be backed by a security interest in the P&G East property must be finalized before sections 1 through 3 can be executed. Pretty simple language. What it does, it just says we have to have a legally binding repayment plan in place before the money can transfer and final agreements can be signed. And the second part of that, I added in there to be backed by a security interest in the property. That's to make sure. So if the project fails or the LLC, which owns this property, declares bankruptcy, that they can't use that bankruptcy loophole to get out of their repayment requirement. It's kind of similar in concept to a mechanic's lien. If a mechanic does $100,000 worth of improvement to your property, then they did the improvement and you got $100,000 worth of improvement out of it. So the mechanic can put the lien on it to make sure that this improvement is not coming out of their pocket. It's that they get reimbursed for it. So I will move that we amend this legislation as written in front of us.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Is there further discussion on the second?
Mr. Pacheco, when we authorized the city to make the application and to secure this loan, forgive me, I thought we were done. And I know there's stuff being torn down and I think we gave assurances and things. Is this something we can go back and decide differently against, or are we bound to follow through with what we started?
That's more of a policy choice than it is
Use the microphone.
Can you please?
that's more of a policy choice than a legal choice, but you've already, I mean, you're gonna have an argument from the other side that, yeah, you did that already and we detrimentally relied on it. And now, so yeah, there's a potential argument, but I'm not gonna vet the merits of that in the public, but yeah, that's a potential argument. Yes.
Could or could not the entire grant we lose the whole grant, which, and the funds are already, the $350 million Ohio State funds are gone from what I understand. So if we turn this down, we've just lost $4.5 million matching grant to clean up asbestos and clean up all this pollution. And I don't even know what words I can use for how ridiculous I think that is.
We would not, okay, first of all, we are not on the hook. I mean, we are not the recipients of $4.6 million of anything the private owner of this property is. All this would do is it simply would tell the developer that they have to pay us back the money that we're giving to them. That's the developer's choice. It just means we're not going to be on the hook for this.
Any further discussion? Jamie, please call the roll.
Just
on-
to be clear what council's voting on.
You're
Council's
on
voting on the amended
amendment.
motion.
Correct. So call the roll on the amendment.
Councilman Zerwanka,
No.
Councilman Gath,
No?
Councilwoman Schneider,
No.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
No.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Mayor Cirkin,
No.
5 noes, 2 yeses.
Right, so the motion is defeated to amend, and now you're back to the,
The original.
back to the original motion, correct?
Correct.
Which is the legislation that was put before you in the packet, yes.
Correct. So Jamie, please call the roll on the original.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
No.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
No.
Mayor Cirkin.
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 noes.
Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-51 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to execute perpetual, non-exclusive grant of utility easement and temporary sidewalk easements over portions of parcel 612-0120-0278 of the Hamilton County Auditor's Office records over a portion of Summit Park for the Arabella Townhome and Condo Development.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-51.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilman Gath,
Yes?
Mayor Cirkin,
Yes.
7 yeses.
All I have, Mayor.
Okay, we're going to move to Planning and Zoning Committee. Vice Mayor Javari, chairperson.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the ordinance. Jamie, please read the ordinance by the title only, 2022-07.
Approving a concept planned unit development for a 6.2 acre parcel at the northwest corner of the intersection of Kenwood Road and Cooper Road in the downtown zoning district. And this is the second reading.
So we have to just go as a resolution? Okay. Move to adopt the ordinance number 2022-07.
Second.
Any discussion?
Well, I'll start with just some basic questions on one key item here. A few years back, we purchased, as a city, we purchased the corner lot for $4.3 million. This, if we pass this ordinance as is, it would look to me like then the developer controls because this is one cohesive development, that the developer controls that lot. So what is the plan as far as either selling that piece of property or charging rent on the piece of property? Like, how are we getting reimbursed for this?
If I understand this correctly, Jeff, this is just if we approve the concept of a mixed-use development. The money that the financing has not been put in place, the investors have not put in place, the schools have not agreed to any arrangement. It's kind of like if you go out and want to buy a house or build a house, and you go to the bank and you want money and you want investors, and you say, well, I don't have plans for the house yet, and I'm not really sure if I'm going to be allowed to build it, but will you give me money? And that's, from what I understand, where we're at this point. We got to have some plans. We got to give the developer the go-ahead on our concept so that they can do detailed planning. Actual, if you want to go to blueprints, and then take that to a bank and take it to investors to get the funds. I think you're way ahead, unless I'm not understanding what this is. And I will be corrected, hopefully, if I am not right, but this is just for the concept of the mixed-use development. End of story.
Oh, all right.
Am I missing something?
Yeah, that's accurate. We have preliminarily discussed it, so it's not, shouldn't be a surprise to you at all, but yeah, there will be a step in which you will execute the terms of either the sale, the lease, or whatever. You're not being asked to approve that tonight. You're being asked to give them approval so that they can then start financing and all the other arrangements that'll take many more months.
Yeah, my concern on that is just that a concept plan is not just an etch-a-sketch that you throw together, pass it, and then you can revisit it at will down the road. And in fact, according.
Hold on,
based
just, you're right, it's not an etch-a-sketch, but just to clarify, that is exactly what happens with the concept plan. That's what's happened at Summit Park. They got a concept plan at the neighborhood at Summit Park probably 8, 9 years ago. And they're still coming back with phases from time to time saying, okay, now this phase, we now have this detail. It's a lot bigger project than that. But they have come back multiple times with more concrete. So they did have very much, it was a very fancy etch-a-sketch, if that's the word you want to use, but they have come back in multiple phases and they still aren't done with different phases. So in fact, tonight we even approved an easement related to one of those phases. So just so no one misunderstands that, it's a very ongoing evolutionary process.
But that's also the purpose of a PUD by definition.
Yes.
It's a concept, so we're approving the general idea that we agree, okay, about 250 apartments, 100,000 square feet of commercial and office space. So that idea of that, knowing that there's items in this that they need to come back or figure out. We've heard about traffic and signals and things like that are not confirmed yet.
Finishes, financing, all of it. It all comes back in different parts and pieces over time. So.
What we have to remember, though, is that based on the 2017 charter amendment change, council no longer has to approve a final development plan. So a concept plan could be the last time that council approves this. So you kind of want things, anything you want to get it in there. Anything you don't want, you want to zap it out, because it's the planning commission and not council that can approve or reject the final development plan. Now, they can also kick it up to council. That may happen, but it's not a guarantee. And I remember this issue pretty clearly because when I first joined council, which my first meeting as a council member was in December of 2017. And so when you've mentioned the Summit Park, the development outside of Summit Park, the prior council approved the concept plan in 2016 for that area. But then just for whatever the factors were, the final plan never got finished in that term. So when I joined council December of 2017, it was basically, welcome to council. Now here's the final development plan of the most controversial issue council's dealt with in years, and a whole lot of people hate it on your plate, and good luck with it. So, I was, in addition to being a little overwhelmed and having a million questions, I kind of set about finding out, okay, a concept plan has passed, but what rights, and to add to that, I had some serious problems with some of the issues, with some of the things in that Summit Park concept plan. So I went about finding out, okay, what could council unilaterally change if it wanted to about a concept plan? And what I found out is that it's not really as much as a lot of people thought, that when you're evaluating the final plan, you're really just looking at, the primary thing you're looking at is whether it's in compliance with the concept plan. So
So Jeff, are there things about the concept plan in front of us that you want to make major changes to? I mean, we've been talking about this for months now, and I haven't heard that, you don't want to have any restaurants there, or I haven't heard those kinds of issues from you. Is there something that bothers you with the proposed?
Well, I started talking about it at the last meeting. It's this issue of, we put a lot of money into paying for that corner lot. And I want to make sure that we're getting our fair value out of that.
Right.
My concern is just that, and I'm happy to hear more discussion on it, and maybe we work through it more, but my concern is that we approve a concept plan, which then is essentially giving the developer the right to that land, and then we wait well down the road to actually either sell it or set a market or set up a rent for it. But then by that point, there's not much market demand for it. The only party that would even have interest in buying it is the one developer who already has the rights to it. And
So
as
that's
we know,
interesting to me, because it's not how I understand it.
well, if I can, I've got the floor. If I can finish my
Sure.
point on this, So if we're at a point where there's only one party in the world interested in even buying or renting the land, for one thing, that's going to drive down value by quite a bit, because one of the things that drives value up is having a lot of demand for a piece of property. Or same thing would go if we held the property and rented it out. If there's only one party who you could rent it to, that doesn't do much for demand. And then if we're giving the rights to build on that property without having any agreements in place beforehand, then what we've practically done is transferred over the value of the property while still holding the deed. And again, another part that makes a property valuable or not is what you can do with it. So if we're granting the rights to be on the property, but we're keeping the deed, when you go to sell the deed is less valuable. So that's why I've got real concerns about moving forward with this before we have something more solid in place to make sure that we're getting the value we should be getting out of that $4.3 million property. Now, I'll yield the floor and let everyone go with it.
I like to answer the question that you like to see.
I
I've been telling,
haven't asked a question yet, so go ahead, but,
you already asked.
oh, I did.
Yeah, you
Oh.
already asked what changes that would you like to go
Ah,
into this.
sure.
didn't you? Yes, so I'm answering for that. Basically that, the apartments, that instead of apartments, if there was a condo, it was good. But it's apartment, too many apartment in our Blue Ash, it's going to like a 28% percentage wise. It's going to be that much apartment against the houses. That's what I like to see. That's your answer.
Mr. Mayor, or maybe it's Mr. Pacheco, this is a zoning ordinance, right? So if the zoning goes through, nobody can build on our property, no one can stand on our property or has any rights over the lot that we own without some further action. Is that right?
Yes, they have to come back and comply with the final development plan requirements, which A through 1137.05. So this concept plan triggers, if you will, the final development plan review. And it is true that Planning Commission does that. And it is true that Planning Commission may or may not refer it to council, but it is also true that the precedent is that the Planning Commission does in fact refer it to council for final approval. But that's not required. That's true. Mr. Capel accurately stated that. But that is what's in the code. That the Planning Commission.
But even then, if a final development plan is approved by the Planning Commission and or by City Council,
Yes.
the circle development can't begin construction without
Yeah, you-
some agreement with.
Yeah,
over
it
our
is
land.
ir-
I mean, it's
You're
just-
right. You
it's
got to
just
do all that.
zoning, right? It's
Correct.
a
You gotta
map.
do all that other
and-
stuff. Yes.
Yeah, it is two separate actions.
Right.
And maybe you can unwind it in Jeff's mind, but the execution of the sale of that property is completely different. And it's completely different set of documents that would happen at the right mature time. This just gives them permission to start spending money on engineers and architects to do design work. Otherwise, if you're not going to give them any permission, they're not going to spend any, I mean, to put it in very simple terms, you wouldn't, as an investor, spend $2 million doing architectural and engineering plan and design if you don't know you have any chance of this getting approved. So that's what this is.
And if zoning's not permanent, so if in 5 years, something has happened and this project doesn't go through, we still own that lot, we could rezone that for another pod that puts in tennis courts. For example.
It's coming.
That was
It's
good.
coming.
Thank you. That
Expensive
was
tennis
good.
courts.
Well, and I think you bring up a great point. Everyone wants to think in terms of immediacy, but these things just take forever. There's lots of little steps and there's lots of processes to it. And I go back to what I said before, the neighborhood at Summit Park has probably been 7-8 years in the works. It just takes time for the development. Pandemics happen that cause pauses. There's a lot of things that'll happen, but there are lots of safeguards along the way. There's lots of, we're guided by, Dinsmore has the bond counseling division and the public financing division. When we get to that step, they will help, make sure that project is sellable on the bond markets, and bond investors aren't going to buy it until they know there's a return on investment, what have you. So there's a lot of due diligence. It's not, with all due respect, you make a really important decision, but there's 100 other decisions by investors and bankers and Wall Street types before they'll even consider investing into a project like this. But this is step one to even start that process.
I want to add few more things. It's that I just told you that percentage wise, it will be too much into our blue ash. If we go look in the Evendale and Montgomery, they have a way lower rate, or the percentage wise, the apartment against the houses. One has a 8%, I think Evendale has a 8%, and Montgomery has a somewhere around 12%. Don't count me out exact numbers. That's number one. Number two is that when somebody is building a condo, 180 condos, who thinks that he can sell and make money on the Summit Park, why we cannot have in here at the Blue Circle? That's my question here. Any discussion further?
I'm excited to see this project move forward. My neighbors and myself and many people I've talked to have been asking for years for more restaurants downtown, things that you can walk to. I'm looking forward to patronizing these places. I'm excited for the opportunity to see the retail that comes out of there. In a perfect world, I would love for there to be no apartments. That would be great. I think we got a win. The Circle Development was told, hey, 350 apartments. That's a good number of apartments for this site. And they proposed 250. And I think that does do some things as far as helping that area stay alive. And I'm excited for it. If I had a magic wand and unlimited money, I might do things a little bit differently, but I think it's going to be a great addition to our community.
You know, we didn't buy that piece of property to sell it at a profit. We bought it to partner with a company to come up with a transformational project for downtown. And, you know, the apartments, I know a lot of people tend not to like them, but they do provide a wonderful feature of our community. And those are going to be expensive apartments. They're going to be, you know, primarily single family, meaning there's not going to be children. And I just think it's going to bring a lot of great people, have the opportunity to live in Blue Ash if they work here, or once they sell their family home, they can still stay in Blue Ash because they may be out of town part of the year. I just think it's going to be a great project.
We are living longer. We are getting married later. We are buying houses later. And we are looking for young professionals and retirees to have a lot of options in Blue Ash. That was one of the things that Blue Ash residents have always said. They want housing options. And if you look at what 4900 and the approach, which are high-end apartments with a lot of amenities, and you look who lives there, you're going to see a lot of retirees and you're going to see a lot of yuppies. They can use that, if I can use that term anymore. This property downtown has some great things about it, is that it's surrounded by some businesses and restaurants, but it also has some problems that, you know, we can't change. There's a railroad track. So the idea that we're going to build single family homes that are $800 and $1,000 and $1 million right by the railroad tracks, probably not going to happen. And we just have to accept where this property is. And we've all been looking at it for a long time. It's been in, you know, relatively rough shape for most of our time that we've lived in Blue Ash. And I think this project, from what we're seeing, the people that are living at 4900 and the approach and the lack of children, it's not going to overrun the schools. We've pretty much proved that over and over again. I think it's going to be a really nice addition to the city. In the long run, when a lot of us are living until we're 90 and 100 and we're in apartments for that time between our two-story homes and our senior living communities, we're going to like that flexibility. So I'm excited about it.
I agree. I think as controversial as apartments are, I think them being downtown, that is where we want them. And we did 4900 wrong, but I think here in this development with the new zoning, I know it's a PUD, but the way that it's designed and the concept and the step back and the setback from the neighborhoods, I think this is the right way to do it. Bringing that vibrancy to downtown, those people are there. You've got all of that movement and people, and that brings more people in. So I think the apartments are an asset to this to the downtown area. And we see 4900 is very successful. It's full and people want to be there in those types of these new higher end apartment complexes that have amazing amenities. And so I know they're controversial, but I think that this development, I think they'll be great in that part.
I'd like to remind everybody that we set out before we even bought the property up there on the corner of realigning the zoning. It is zoned as mixed use. Mixed use includes residential. It can be condos, it could be homes, it could be apartments, okay? That all being said, we also set out that we create this project as a destination point, something there for all our residents. Could be, and I've said that, and I use this as purely as an example, you could move Pipkins over there and have a little separate market or some other market for that matter. You restaurants and breweries, things that create synergy for our downtown, for our residents. And you also include some of those as apartments, people who live there and participate in that. Going back in history, Mr. Hosbrook used to sit right there in the front row for a long, long time. He came to all our meetings and he was always interested to see if when he passed or even prior, if we would buy that property. We did that. The primary reason we bought that property is to have a discussion, just as we are right now, as to what we have a little bit of say in what goes there. And we've had those discussions. The developer has met all those expectations. I'm very pleased with the project. As a PUD, as I said before, it will come back multiple times to us. Whether it be finishes, finance, selling of the property, whatever it is, it's all going to come back. So it's just a little historical perspective. I think we're at the right spot, at the right time.
I want to add a few more things, is that don't count me wrong. The project, the way you presented it, everything, it's just beautiful. We love it. I'm excited about that. But except the apartments, which is, I'm concerned. The one more thing that my colleagues here talking about, the people wanted, it's all apartments are full and everything, but do you remember? Just please remember these things. 2008, and the economy, bubble of economy busted. At that time, all over the world, or not all over the world, but it was in the United States, so many millennials, or so many H-1 visa people left their cars, whatever that belongs to, then gone back to where their country is. And then you have to remember these things. We may pass these things now, but remember after 5 or 7 years, in United States, we have seen this, that after certain years, the graph goes up and down, and that graph goes down. The first effect is gonna see, or according to me, is that with these apartment gonna go empty. People have to reduce their rates, and once they reduce the rate, we're gonna see all the nonsense. And another thing, one of the state representative he was living on the west side, and he moved out from west side because they had so many apartments. And I know him personally, and he told me about that. So what I would like to see and tell my colleagues, just like I did before, please think about it. I don't mind having condos, people buying, staying there for a long time. It's not transit things, coming and going, coming and going. That's all I want to say. One more time, nothing wrong with the project. It's just beautiful. You have a design beautiful. I love it, everything, except these things. This is where it ends.
I'm largely in the same zip code as PJ on this issue. A few years ago, council put together our vision for downtown, and where we clearly stated in that vision that residential was to be a supportive use, but not a primary use. On this project, 65% of the square footage is for the apartments and 35% to everything else, which, and I'm not one who says it has to be 0 apartments. I mean, considering that we're talking about this being a downtown property, that's where apartments tend to go. So I'm not team 0 on the issue, but this is a bit too much for me. And if we compare this to the Montgomery Quarter, the numbers are out of whack. So if you look at what's going to be going up at the Montgomery Quarter just a few miles away, they're going to have 260,000 square feet of office space, 38,000 square feet of retail and restaurant. So 300,000 square feet of non-residential. And for all that, they're only going to put up 148 apartments. Now, this project, we only have 100,000 square feet of office and retail, so only 1/3 of the Montgomery Quarter, yet we have far more apartments. So the balance is not right to me. I'll also add the Montgomery Quarter has 48 condos there, and we'll have 0 at ours. And the idea that because of the railroad, you can't put non-apartment residential just flies in face of the facts. On the immediate west side of the railroad is Conklin. That's a row of 30 single-family homes, most of which are owner-occupied. The train comes in like once a day. It's not that loud. Even I could outrun it half the time. It's just not a problem. You could put some condos there. So in addition to the concerns I raised about the financing of the corner lot, which have only been reinforced when I look at the lack of urgency and priority of most other people up here, the project mix itself is a real concern for me. So I'm just simply not ready to give approval to a concept plan at this point.
Any more discussion? Jimmy, please call roll call.
Vice Mayor Javari,
No.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
No.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Mayor Cirkin.
Yes.
5 yeses, 2 nos.
Okay, Mayor, I have a motion. I have a motion setting a public hearing for Thursday, October 13, 2022 at 7:05 PM to consider an application to designate approximately 1.75 acres of land at 10,635 Techwood Circle as a planned unit development, PUD, in the Summit Park zoning district.
Second.
We just go for yes and no. Everybody yes? No in a favor or yes? Everybody yes? Aye. Anybody against? Yes, no, no. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, we're going to move to Public Safety Committee. Councilman Capell.
We just have one issue. Jamie, if you can please read Resolution 2022-52 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to purchase EMS equipment and enter into a multi-year equipment maintenance agreement with Stryker Medical.
I move that we approve resolution number 2022-52. Is
Second.
there any discussion or questions?
Good job, chief. This is a really smart move. They found out that these prices were going up. They were planning on purchasing next year. There's a 6 to 8 month lead time. You place the order today, you're not going to get it until next year anyway, but prices were going to go up by 10%. And so by placing the order now, not only do we get them next year, but we get them at the lower price. And then while they were at it, they also redid the maintenance agreement for this equipment and for some other equipment that we need maintained, and again, avoiding a price increase. So I certainly appreciate the diligent work to keep costs in control. Thank you.
I just have a question about in the resolution, the language says, the total amount not to exceed 142,128, but with the trade-in, so the memo says the total will be 59,466. Is that just the way it's written?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Okay. I understand. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilman Gath,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari,
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider,
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka,
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole,
Yes.
Councilman Capell,
Yes.
Mayor Cirkin,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, let's move to miscellaneous business.
Catch my breath after that.
You what?
I gotta catch my breath after that. There's a, I guess I just want to generally respond to some of the comments in the audience tonight. Nothing specific, but there was a theme of spend money in my neighborhood, spend money in my neighborhood, and spend money on things that I want. And that's a great segue to, and I normally don't acknowledge Mr. Nord's comments about it. But tonight, his theme was inflation. He lost me after a while, but it's certainly a challenge that we're having, and I think it's something that we all ought to be aware of. As we prepare our fall budget, senior staff is working on that. Mayor Cirkin, you complimented Sherry on keeping the health insurance cost down via the employee health consortium committee that we have, but they've actually averaged less than a couple percent over the last 10 years. It's been phenomenal. Take it a step further, with all the increases in operational costs, gas and even construction costs and everything. I think our department heads have done an amazing job, but it segues into the future. Yeah, we are going to have increasing operational costs, having trouble getting equipment, having trouble getting supplies. And then we do have requests from residents that we try to be sensitive to, things like fix the tennis courts and, improve, pave my street first versus another person's street and this and that. So just be aware, we're aware of it. We're always kind of spinning on the hamster wheel, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to be responsible with our dollars. I think we'll continue to do a good job. We have the benefit of having a staff that's gone through several recessions and downturns, quite frankly, and weathered them very well, and actually even built some reserves. So I feel really good about that, but that doesn't take away the pressure that some people still want to fix some things. We do take priority on all of our resident features. I would say, issue 15, people sometimes maybe forget that it was passed for, a number of park and recreational improvements. But the very first project that was done in issue 15 funds was a $14 million expansion of the rec center, of which only, limited membership there. So it's certainly a direct indication of the benefit to our residents. And, you're going to see us over the next few years continue to do that. So we'll talk about that more as we go through the fall budget process, but I want everyone to know that we're aware of those issues. We're trying to segue them and put them in the right slot. But I feel like our senior staff has a pretty good handle on it. And certainly their track record in the past indicates that they'll be able to manage that upcoming challenge. And so that's all I had, Your Honor.
Thank you. Kelly. Gary. The negotiator, the hammer. No, it's okay. I got what I needed. I saw Julie earlier.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Jamie,
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
easy. Rachel. Paul, you're hiding back there somewhere. Gordon.
Yeah, I just wanted to say construction's still continuing on Plainfield and Hunt. We hope to finish up the general islands by sometime next week or in the next couple weeks, I should say, just depending upon weather. And then we'll start finishing up that project, moving up to the Plainfield and Reed-Hartman intersection. And so it's moving along. So I just appreciate everybody driving carefully and being respectful for the construction workers that are out there. Thank you.
Barry, did you want to say anything? Pat yourself in the back. Chief Knoll?
Just briefly, Mayor, our open house is going to be next Wednesday from 4 to 7 p.m. over at the police department. So everybody's invited, and there is a rumor out there that I may or may not be in a dunking booth. So just
You need to put that
everybody's
on the-
invited.
Need to put that on the announcement.
I'm going to start my shoulder therapy tonight. Get myself in gear. Brian.
Thanks, sir. Just wanted to offer Mrs. Collette, we can touch base after the meeting and exchange contacts and get together and talk about Parks and Rec project.
I cannot hear you.
prioritization.
Anything.
I'm sorry?
He couldn't hear you.
Cannot hear.
Sorry, I was just offering to Mrs. Collette that we would touch base after the meeting and share contact information. I can get in touch and we can have a discussion about Parks and Rec project prioritization.
Chief Peters.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind everyone that this weekend is a 9/11 where we're going to have our 9/11 Memorial Stair Climb on Sunday. The events will start about 8 in the morning. I know there's some things out on our social media. I promise you we will be done by the time the Bengals Steelers game is. So if that, prevents you from showing up, but you all are welcome. It's a wonderful event. We have a lot of things going on. So if you're available, we hope to see you there.
Thank you. Okay. Who did I miss? Counselor? Bill?
Thanks, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Lee and the Beautification Committee for their work on that. I think it's a really nice project for our city. And of course, congratulations to all the winners. And just another thank you to the people that take the time to come out and share their opinions with us. We really do appreciate it. And we know that you don't have to, you can just stay home and be mad. And we're glad that you're out here sharing your views and your ideas with us. That's all.
Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to thank all the residents who came out and expressed their thoughts to us, and I wanted to follow up on one of them. Ms. Lane made some very good observations about some of the older streets we have that will look like they can be spruced up. A lot of those streets are in my ward, so it's something that I go out walking a lot, so it's something I've looked at a number of times. When I go out walking, what I've noticed, I'd love to have curbs and would love to see if we can modernize them. I've also found that the biggest obstacle is just that the houses are so close together and there's a ton of on-street parking. So when I initially joined council, I made the observations and then I informally discussed that with some people on the city staff and just kind of raised the issue of that. I'd love to see if there was something that we could come up with where we can upgrade the streets to make them have a much more modern look to them while keeping on-street parking. And the on-street parking is essential considering how close those streets are. I'm a pretty fearless person, but if we took away on-street parking on those streets, even I would run into hiding at that point because it would be a nightmare. I'd love to say that I'm brilliant enough that I've come up with the answer. Unfortunately, I haven't. It's just one of those things. We got to have it on the bulletin board and see if there's something we can do. I appreciate you bringing that to our attention because it's been a few years since I had those informal discussions. And it's a good reminder to me that maybe it's time to have another discussion about that issue. So thank you.
Again, congratulations to our Beautification Week winners. You guys, the winners every year set the example for all the rest of us on how to do our yards. So a round of applause to all the winners. Also, my thank yous and to all of administration and council for your thoughts and prayers over the last few weeks due to my family's issues that we've got going on. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Now that school's back in, the traffic, especially in the downtown Blue Ash area, has just increased so much. It feels like we're back to pre-pandemic levels, which in a way is great, but a lot more pedestrians, a lot of students out on the streets, and I'm out there walking every day. So I just want to remind everybody, drivers need to do better, but pedestrians also need to be very aware of what's going on and watch out for themselves, because if a car's a lot bigger and heavier, so it's not, you're the one who's going to get hurt. And the last week have really noticed as we've been out, just the craziness and a lot more traffic and people not paying attention and people trying to turn. I was in the middle of the intersection crossing Cooper at Kenwood, and a car turned left right in front of me, which is kind of scary. So I know that Chief Knoll, you guys all do a great job looking out, but Just want to remind everybody to be careful.
A long meeting reminds me of how blessed we are to be living in Blue Ash. The things that are on our agenda are certainly important, but these are the kind of the 1% problems that many cities would love to be able to spend time on. And so I'm grateful that we are in a city that we can work on these things together. I'm grateful for our residents who come and have suggestions and point out things. I think that's great. I'm incredibly grateful for our city staff that whenever I bring hey, this is be a great way to do it, they're able to say, yeah, we think so too, except we tried that, or, here's this other reason. I've yet to come up with something they hadn't thought of already. Sometimes it's just a matter of priority and waiting. And David, if there's something that you can add, I would like to figure out how to just like time travel or something, because there's so many exciting things coming up, and I'm impatient now. I want to see them, but development and these sorts of things move at a different pace, and so I will do my best to sit and wait and watch with anticipation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Javeri?
Yes, sir. I have a few points I need to discuss. Just want to understand one thing, that we are going to have more traffic at the Kenwood and Cooper, and we are passing 250 apartments. It doesn't make any sense, number one. Number two, I want to ask the administration, where we really standing about the tennis court and the pool? Are we still working on it? What is update on that? I really like to know.
And no update, the same update. I've talked to you about it numerous times, probably.
No, you did talk to numerous times about
Oh,
that.
okay, sorry.
Just want to make sure. Okay. Go ahead.
I think it's understood that over the next year, we were kind of committed to doing the downtown Town Square project. As we cycle out of that project, we will be doing design and preliminary work and scoping the pool and the tennis court project.
Are you talking about 2024, somewhere around
Or 25.
24, 25?
Why don't we just give them,
Please,
let's give the square to a developer and then give them $1.5 million.
I just want to make sure that because of the just suggestions that we have, is that we want to do two things together: the swimming pool and our tennis courts. Is there any way that you can separate those two projects and work on the project of our tennis courts? That's one of the things. Is there any possible that you can divide between, not just for the?
Yes, it's possible.
Okay. It's possible. What's possible? Possible you can split them. Thank you. And I just want to make sure all the constituents are here. They're coming here for the certain reason. And I'm glad that they are out and they are expressing their concern. That is very nice of you guys coming out. And thanks for coming out. And it was great. The beautification award was great. And I applaud those people who did a good job keeping their house cleaned up and their yard nice and clean, not like mine. Thank you. That's all, my Mayor.
I just have a couple things, and Kelly left, and I noticed it a few months ago. She got the whole corner at Reed Hartman and Glendale Milford cleaned up. They had a trailer and the old signs, and that's all gone. And it just, to me, looks 1,000 times better. And I just wanted to thank her for that. Gordon and Brian and staff, I wanted to thank you also for getting those signs up at Summit View Parkway so that our sugar and spices and our higher gravities and our gold spoons can have a little bit of open parking. The residents there are constantly using those spots and sitting there the whole weekend. And that wasn't the idea with having those businesses there that we all can enjoy. It would be nice if sometimes there was a couple spots open. So there's a row now of 2-hour only parking. My guess is we'll have to do a little bit of sometimes some enforcement, nice and sweet. I'll do it for you. I'll go walk through at 2 o'clock in the morning and put little signs on the car and say, hey, guys, it'd be nice if sugar and spice and could have a parking spot now and again. So, but anyway, thanks for getting that done. Looks great. And I know Kelly was going to talk to the Approach, the management company, and let them get some information out to the residents that they all have their own parking spots, and it might be an extra 15, 20 seconds to get there, but please leave those spots open for those businesses. So,
Mark,
yes.
also reminder for our residents, we have 2 new restaurants that just opened up.
Yes, Green District, which is a salad restaurant, which is wonderful. I've eaten there twice already. That is up across from Chick-fil-A in the little strip mall, Key Banks on the corner. It's very good. And then a new ice creamery opened across from the kids' playground in the Approach, the bottom of the apartments at Summit Park. It's called Gold Spoon. It's a local couple. She's a teacher at Walnut Hills, and he's an IT guy, and I can't remember where he works for, but they have a passion for ice cream. They went out to Colorado and went to college, ice cream college, to learn how to make things homemade. So they make it at the location every day. It's great. So give them a shout and talk to them and tell them that we all sent you over there, because that's a nice little thing. And the wintertime will be a little struggle maybe, but it's really good ice cream. So give them a try. I think that's all I have. So with that, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And we
Thank
do
you.
appreciate the positive and the negative